Let's go over to Canberra now, and joining us live is the Health Minister, Greg Hunt. Minister, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So already
Pleasure.
this morning we're seeing reports from clinics that are suggesting that many people aged over 50 are now cancelling their second AstraZeneca doses. So should this decision to give AstraZeneca to over 60s have been made months ago in line with several other European nations?
Well, we've followed the medical advice, which has been very, very clear. And what we see is that Australia has one of the most conservative age ranges now. If you look at the UK, which allows AstraZeneca for 40 and above, South Korea 30 and above, Germany for 18 and above. What our Australian medical authorities have done is look at the international evidence and said, for 50 to 59s, we're now recommending Pfizer rather than AstraZeneca. But if you have had your first dose, please come forward and have your second dose. The incidence is dramatically lower with a second dose. And that's the strong, clear advice. For example, my 89-year-old mother-in-law, she's stepping forward today to have her second dose at the Rosebud Commonwealth Vaccination Clinic. I've had mine. Brendan Murphy's had his. Julia Gillard, who joined us for the initial vaccination, has had hers. But it's all about protection, and the medical advice is very clear that the first and the second dose are two very, very different incidents. And if you've had a successful first dose, as over 3.8 million Australians have with AstraZeneca, please join the more than 200,000, or the approximately 200,000 that have had second doses. It's a critical part of the process of protecting each Australian, but also protecting every Australian.
Why would people trust advice, though, that keeps changing?
Well, the whole world has been through a pandemic where we've had to adapt to new advice. We closed the borders with China on the basis of medical advice, which many contested, but it was probably the most important single decision Australia has made. Many thought that that was precipitant or too early. We've taken decisions about closing all of the international borders. And we've taken cautious decisions in relation to vaccinations. I remember many said, let's just rush this vaccine in without having the full assessment process. I am very much reinforced of the view that it was the right thing to do that. What Professor Huon Tran, one of the leading thrombosis experts in Australia and arguably in the world, said to me last week, that full assessment has meant that we were able to detect cases earlier than other countries, treat them better, but nevertheless, we're following that medical advice. This is a pandemic where 2 million people have died worldwide this year from COVID. Not one has caught COVID in Australia and passed from it, thankfully, at this stage. And the reason we've done that, the reason we've been able to achieve this incredible outcome as a nation is precisely because we've acted early on the advice as it's come in.
A new age bracket, though, is going to eat into those Pfizer supplies. What kind of delays are you expecting?
Our national goal in terms of offering every Australian access to vaccination this year remains the same. Over the coming weeks, as we expand the 40 to 49 to now cover those 50 to 59 age group for Pfizer, that means that people will have to be patient during that time, and I thank them for that. But we have large volumes of Pfizer coming in. We have 40 million doses contracted for this year, plus another 10 million of Moderna, which will also be coming. We're very confident in that supply, and we'll have 2.8 million doses of Pfizer coming in July. We're moving from an average of 300,000 to over 600,000 a week. That's more than we were anticipating for July, and we've worked hard to bring that forward. So, there's adequate supply for the whole nation. We have to encourage as many people to come forward, both within their age range from the 40 to 59 and for those 60 and above. Do not wait. Please come forward for your vaccinations. And if you have had a first dose, the medical advice was very, very clear yesterday. Please do not wait. When your 12 weeks comes up, come forward and be vaccinated. It can potentially save your life. It can protect you, and will protect everybody else in Australia.
But given there has been delays before, if there is a delay with these extra Pfizer shipments, that's going to blow out your plans to have everyone vaccinated by the year's end, right?
Look, Pfizer has been an absolutely reliable partner. They have never overpromised, and every one of their shipments has arrived on time and in full volume. And so they have a very cautious, conservative country head in Anne Harris. She's always working to pull forward what we can get for Australia, but everything that they have pledged to us, they've delivered. And so we regard them as an utterly reliable partner. There were delays out of Europe where they blocked AstraZeneca to Australia, and that did have an impact. But what we've seen is the honest answer, the first 4 million doses took longer than we initially anticipated because of those international challenges. The last 2 million have been done at record time, at faster than we expected. So we've ended up getting to that 6 million mark at a much faster rate than we anticipated in going from 4 to 6. What does it mean? It means that Australians are coming forward. It's a global pandemic and there are challenges for everybody. Mercifully, our challenges are less than so many other countries. Our unemployment's down to 5.1%. Nobody has lost their life to COVID caught in Australia this year, in a world of over 2 million lives lost. Those two achievements are extraordinary, but we have to keep fighting, we have to keep working. And Australians have been magnificent, and I want to thank them, but encourage them to keep coming forward for first doses and to come forward confidently and on time for second doses. That's
have you had confirmation,
from
though?
Brendan Murphy and others.
Have you had confirmation from your clinics, from Commonwealth-run clinics, that people are pulling out, that they're not having that second jab?
Look, we expected that there would be those that obviously by definition 50 to 59 would cancel their first jab. We'll get details over the course of today and tomorrow from the Commonwealth clinics.
Okay. Minister, Victoria claims it's not getting enough. The acting Premier says supply will drop from 105,000 a month to 85,000. Why is that?
No, that's incorrect. Victoria's supply will go from an average of 71,000 a week in June to 83,000 a week. In addition, on top of that, we provided an extra 100,000 doses for them to catch up on their second doses. And we're also now providing an extra 50,000. So Victoria will go all up in June from 380,000 doses to 560,000 doses. Both months, it's about 380,000 for the state government. And in July, there's 180,000 doses.
So is that one jab or two jabs?
Well, that's doses, and they obviously make sure that people have first or second jab, depending on their circumstances. That's 180,000 for GPs as that program expands. And we're bringing forward the opening up of the GP Pfizer program, and we'll have, by the end of July, up to 1,300 general practices around the country providing Pfizer. So we're providing for all. There are challenges, but the alternative to following the medical advice is not following the medical advice, and that's not an alternative that I'm willing to take.
Okay, well, I mean, to boost confidence again, why not renew the conversation about incentives? So if you are fully vaccinated, will you consider home quarantine?
Well, we have ourselves, the Prime Minister and myself have raised the prospect that where people are fully vaccinated, that potentially state border controls might not apply to them. We have raised the possibility of changes to the quarantine regime. I'd be cautious in the sense of not over-promising. We have said that we will be guided by the medical advice, but those are options on the table for the capacity to leave the country earlier and to return with lesser restrictions. We are cautious about moving to a regime which doesn't have very clear oversight. But those two exact things of capacity to be exempted from state border controls and the capacity to leave the country earlier and to return are exactly what we've said before. So there's nothing new in that statement. But we are working with the states and territories. At this stage, they've not accepted that concept. So it has to be a dual tick. It's a partnership. But vaccination does two things. It protects you and protects the country, but it also opens up the prospect of earlier and greater freedom and movement, which is something we are deeply and passionately committed to.
Yeah, so, I mean, just finally, when would you like to see that happen? When would you like to see home quarantine happen if you are fully vaccinated?
The prospect, I need to be cautious here. We're not advocating an immediate move to a home quarantine system for full vaccination. We'll follow the medical advice. But what we want to do is to work on ensuring we get as high a rate of vaccination as possible, and then we begin to open up the prospect for people to travel and to return with lesser requirements once we've got that medical advice. So I'm sorry that I'm not going to be specific on that. Always we're working on global evidence. And there are challenges. It's just that our challenges in Australia are mercifully less than others. With
just on that point, global evidence shows that it works, right?
The vaccination.
Home quarantine. Quarantining at home.
What we've seen in Australia is we have the strongest, arguably the strongest quarantine system in the world. What's the difference between Australia and the rest of the world? It's that our first line of defence, quarantine, has been deeply successful. And secondly, there is the potential for different regimes, exactly as you're talking about, but on a cautious, careful, medically approved basis once people are vaccinated.
Okay. Lengthy chat. Health Minister, thanks for coming on. That's what we get. We can get you bright and early at 6:30.
Exactly.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, everybody, and please keep coming forward to be vaccinated. It will help protect you and protect all of us.
Health Minister Greg Hunt, thank you.